I'm 92 years old. That number sits heavier in my mouth than it used to. 92 means the road behind me is longer than the one ahead, and the things I once thought mattered have mostly fallen away. Not all at once, just quietly, over time. There are 7 things I stopped caring about somewhere along the way. I didn't set out to abandon them. Life simply wore them down until they felt too small to carry. I wish I had put them down sooner. Not because my life was terrible. It wasn't. I worked hard. I raised children. I kept a house running for more than 50 years. But there are parts of a life you only understand when the house grows quiet and your name isn't called from the next room anymore. That's where I am now. The quiet part. These days, I sit near the window most mornings. The chair is older than some of my grandchildren. My hands don't move as quickly as they once did, but my mind, it wanders easily. It goes backward more than forward. And that's where the truth tends to live. The first thing I stopped caring about was what people thought of me. It sounds simple when you say it like that. But when I was younger, I spent decades shaping myself around other people's opinions. I was born in 1933, a different world then. A woman was expected to be agreeable, tidy, polite, dependable, not loud, not difficult. So I tried very hard to be all the things that made other people comfortable. In my 20s, I worked at a small office downtown, filing papers, answering phones, typing letters on a gray machine that sounded like rain on tin. I remember once wearing a red dress to work. Nothing flashy, just red. One of the women looked at me and said, "That's a bold color for someone your age." I never wore it again. That was the kind of person I was. Careful, quiet, always adjusting. Later, when I married my husband Thomas, I kept doing it. His preferences became my compass. His moods shaped the air in the house. If he didn't like a certain meal, I stopped cooking it. If he preferred quiet evenings, I stopped inviting friends. None of it seemed like sacrifice at the time. It just felt like the proper way to be married. But looking back, I realize how much of myself I slowly folded away. Little pieces. A dress here, a hobby there, opinions I never said out loud. It took me nearly 80 years to stop worrying about what people thought of me. By then, most of the people I'd worried about were gone. The second thing I stopped caring about was being right. This one took even longer. I used to hold on to arguments the way a person holds on to receipts, proof that I had been wronged or misunderstood. Small things mostly, whether the children should be disciplined a certain way, whether money should be spent or saved, whether someone's tone at the dinner table meant disrespect. Thomas and I had our share of those quiet, stubborn standoffs. You know the kind, 2 people sitting in the same house but speaking only through necessary sentences. Dinner is ready. The mail came. Good night. Sometimes the silence lasted days. I always believed that if I gave in first, I was admitting defeat. So I waited. Years later, I can't remember a single one of those arguments clearly. Not the details, not the reason. But I do remember the feeling of those silent evenings, how heavy they were, how unnecessary. Thomas died when I was 78, a heart attack in the kitchen. He had been making coffee. After the funeral, I found the mug still sitting on the counter where he left it that morning. For weeks, I kept thinking about the last argument we had. Something about the thermostat. The thermostat. 2 days of silence over a dial on the wall. It's strange the things that remain when a person disappears. Being right stopped feeling important after that. The third thing I stopped caring about was looking young. This one may sound vain, but it was real. When I turned 40, I noticed the first deep lines around my mouth. By 50, I'd begun avoiding certain mirrors. Women talked about creams and hair color and small tricks to hide the years. I tried some of them, not because I believed I could stop time, but because I didn't want to feel invisible. There's a quiet shift that happens to women as they age. The world stops looking at you. Not unkindly, just less. For a long time, I fought that feeling. I kept my hair dyed, chose clothes that made me appear smaller, neater, younger. Then, one afternoon in my late 70s, I caught my reflection in a shop window. My hair had grown out silver. My back had curved slightly. The woman staring back looked nothing like the person I had been at 30, but she didn't look wrong, just older. And suddenly, the effort of pretending otherwise felt exhausting. Now my hands are covered in lines. My face tells the whole story of my years. I don't hide it anymore. At 92, there is a strange kind of freedom in simply being what you are. The fourth thing I stopped caring about was impressing people. For most of my adult life, I believed usefulness was the same thing as worth. If the house was clean, if meals were prepared, if birthdays were remembered, then I was doing well. I filled my days with tasks, laundry, errands, school meetings, holiday planning. It gave structure to life, but it also gave me a quiet habit of measuring myself by how much I accomplished for others. When the children grew up and moved away, those measurements began to disappear. The house stayed clean longer because no one was there to mess it up. The phone rang less. Holidays became smaller. At first, I tried to maintain everything exactly the same. The big dinners, the decorations, the careful preparations, but fewer people came, and eventually I understood something that took me a lifetime to see. Most of the effort had been for an audience that moved on. Not out of cruelty, just life. Impressing people stopped feeling necessary once the audience grew smaller. The fifth thing I stopped caring about was holding on to things. Objects, I mean. For decades, I kept everything. Boxes of school drawings, old kitchen appliances, clothes that no longer fit but might someday. The attic filled slowly. Every item carried a memory, and I believed letting it go meant losing the moment attached to it. Then, a few years after Thomas died, I climbed into the attic and looked around. So many boxes, so many years stacked on top of each other, and suddenly I realized something simple. None of those objects were the memory. The memory was already inside me, so I began giving things away. Not all at once, just a little at a time. Old dishes to a neighbor, furniture to a young couple starting out, clothes to a charity truck that came through the neighborhood. Each time, I felt a strange lightness afterward, as if the past didn't need so much space. The sixth thing I stopped caring about was staying busy. For most of my life, I believed idleness was a kind of failure. There was always something that needed doing. Even after retirement, I found ways to fill the day. Gardening, cleaning, reorganizing drawers that had already been organized. Stillness felt uncomfortable, but old age introduces stillness whether you invite it or not. Your body slows, your circle grows smaller, eventually you sit more than you move. At first I resisted that. Then one afternoon I sat by the window for nearly an hour watching a bird hop along the fence. I realized I hadn't wasted the hour. I had simply been present for it. I had spent 70 years rushing through moments like that, thinking something more important was waiting. Now I know nothing was waiting. Those quiet minutes were the important part. The seventh thing I stopped caring about was whether people remembered me. This one surprised me the most. When you're younger, you imagine your life leaving some kind of mark. You picture stories being told about you, traditions continuing because of you. But memory fades faster than we expect. Friends pass away, neighbors move, children build their own lives filled with new concerns. Even photographs grow unfamiliar to the people looking at them. At first, that realization felt sad. Then it began to feel natural. Every generation steps forward and rearranges the world. The ones who came before slowly fade into the background, not because they were unimportant, simply because time moves on. These days, I don't worry about being remembered. I think more about the small moments that existed quietly while they happened. A conversation at the kitchen sink, a child laughing in the backyard, Thomas humming while he fixed something in the garage. Those moments mattered while they were happening. That was enough. If you're listening to me now, I imagine you're younger than I am, maybe much younger. I'm not telling you what you should do. A life can't be lived by instructions. But I will tell you something I wish I had understood earlier. Most of the things that filled my worries were temporary: opinions, arguments, appearances, possessions, even the idea of being important. Time moves past all of them eventually. What remains are the quiet hours you spent with people who were alive beside you, and those hours disappear faster than you think. I believed there would always be more of them, more dinners, more conversations, more chances to say what I meant to say, but time closes doors very gently. One day, the person who used to sit across from you simply isn't there, and you realize the last conversation already happened. You just didn't know it at the time. That's the strange part about living a long life. Clarity arrives after the choices are already finished. I'm not unhappy sitting here at 92. There's a calm that comes when you stop pretending life can be controlled. The mornings are quiet. Sometimes a neighbor waves when they pass. Sometimes my daughter calls. Sometimes the phone doesn't ring at all. It's all right. The world continues whether I'm in it or not. If you've listened this far, I suppose there's one small thing I'll say before I finish. If someone important to you is sitting in the next room right now, maybe go sit with them for a while. You don't need a reason. Just sit, talk if you want, or don't. Silence shared with someone is different from silence alone. I learned that late. And at 92, late is the only time I have left. The sun moves slowly across the window each afternoon. When it reaches the arm of my chair, I know evening isn't far behind. Days pass that way now, quietly, one after another. And I find myself caring less and less about the things that once felt so large. What remains are small memories and the simple fact that I was here for a while. That's enough. It really is.